Hello, hello. Hope you guys doing fantastic today. The Blue Traveler is the name of the character that we'll be talking about today. But before we're gonna jump into the build itself, just small amount of information, because I haven't been uploading for a few days now. So I've been pumping content for like 2 months now. I made like 5 characters from the scratch, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to like take a few day break. My sleep has been like horrible nowadays, so that's just added to salt to the injury. Um, on top of that, we have PoE1, huge event coming soon, right? Which I'm extremely excited for, by the way. And I've been theory crafting for that event and making some path of building characters. So long story short is that I decided to like take it a little bit easier for a few days and took a short break just to come back refreshed and being able to like just pump content after that. So that's why there were no uploads and I didn't really do much in past few days. But now we're back full force, boys. Tomorrow there's going to be another video, but we're going to get to that later. Now let's jump into the Blue Traveler, the ES stacking Gemling Legionnaire. I'm gonna jump right into the showcase. I have a nice. I had a sandpit map somewhere over here. Okay, there it is. Perfect. Sandpit, not cherry picked at all. It's not my favorite map in the game at all. By the way, after going back to PoE1, I'm sure I'm not going to spam Strand all the time. Definitely not. You're not going to see it, I promise. Um, Gemling Legionnaire, ES stacking Gemling, basic stuff. We're stacking as much health as possible on this character in order to convert that health to ES, and this ES gets boosted by increases to energy shield. Um, basic concept, but just pushed to the absolute, stupidity when it comes to how optimized it is. Of course, you could push it even further with better gear. Like, I'm not the best farmer in the game, so it's very possible that you could, for example, reach 65,000 ES or something like that. It's totally reasonable. But yeah, that's the basic concept of this build. We're using heralds, which is arguably like the best way to clear maps in the game right now. The way that the heralds, Herald of Ash, Herald of Ice, and Herald of Thunder interact with each other is just something that if you guys want to keep on playing PoE2 right now, and you don't plan on playing PoE1, then just keep on abusing it, because like, you know how it works, right? Like you pop Herald of Ice, you use Herald of Thunder to shock enemies, and this chills enemies and freezes them, which then makes Herald of Ice work and explodes everything, and the chain explodes so that as long as there are enemies in the proximity, everything dies, and yeah, it's very balanced, and I'm sure GG is going to keep it in PoE2 next patch, right, guys? GG is going to keep this in the game. So we solve the clear this way. ES already talked about. Since we're stacking stupid amounts of strength, just right now I have 1400. Fully min-max character I think could have about 1600, something like that. Maybe even a little bit more than that. Of course, we're using Pillar of the Cage God. There's absolutely no reason to. And on top of that, I have good news. This comes with insanely good leveling. I've been using this staff since level 1 on this character, currently level 95, and I never took it away since level 1. It's just Pillar of the Cage God, and we're golden. We don't need to worry about anything. Strength stacking allows us to scale damage into, I don't want to say stupid levels, because there's it depends if we're talking about the situations where people just abuse bugs, or we're just talking about the stuff that it's intended. If we're talking about stuff that is intended, then for sure this build still has insane damage. But the bugged builds will obviously one-shot everything in the game instantly, because they do like maybe not billions of damage, but hundreds of millions. So yeah, the damage is still very good because we're stacking strength. Basic showcase of the map here because I didn't want to showcase too much. I didn't even bother like picking like a hard map or something like that. It's just like was a tier 15 with like 1 damage mod or something like that. I didn't bother because this build eats hard maps for breakfast. From all the testing I've done, there wasn't a single thing that gave me any trouble. But since this is a build guide, I'm just going to jump over here real fast and do a breach as well, because this is, you know, a boss with the highest HP in the game, just like other Pinnacle content, and I want to show you guys what the build is capable of when it comes to single target damage department. Of course, you could do many changes to the build. You could, for example, drop 10,000 ES if you wanted to, because why the hell would you need that much, right? You could drop 10,000 ES and invest, you know, 10,000 ES is probably going to give you 30-40% more damage. So I mean that's you know, nothing to sneeze at, right? You can just mix and match. That's the beauty of attribute stackers, that you can lose a little bit of one attribute, get some more into the other, or make some changes to the tree, and you can balance however you want, right? You can invest into more ES, you can invest into more damage. The world is your oyster. You do whatever you want. To me, you know, this was like, you know, from the very start, this was the maximum ES project. So pretty much everything I had, I invested into ES, everything I could, which we're gonna get to soon. But you can invest into more damage if you want. There's no problem. But I have to say that even, you know, in a situation when you fully invest into energy shield, you still with high enough level and good enough gear, you have still enough damage to like literally. You're going to see against a 35 million HP target soon that damage is not a problem. I feel like generally speaking in PoE2, balance is something that they didn't really think about too much. I think they thought about mostly about making the game like playable first, and then the next patch is going to change a lot. But yeah, let's see. So against boss, what you do is you drop 2 heralds and you enable cast on shock, and you drop Hand of Chayula like once or twice. I think it's bugged because sometimes it doesn't go off the first time. And honestly, I don't remember doing that little damage. I guess it's not horrible. Like what it took like 12 seconds or something like that. It wasn't too horrible, but I remember doing more before. Maybe I messed up something, I'm not sure. But as you can see, this is the tankiest target in the game, and dies relatively fast still, so not a big problem at all. And once again, you can invest into more damage if you like, no problem. Alright, so let's jump into it. First up, leveling. I'm going to talk about leveling in short, because this was the most easy, the smoothest leveling, or the most smooth, I don't know, but the most smooth leveling I've experienced in PoE2. And as I mentioned before, I equipped this staff level 1, and that's literally it. The best part about this is that you don't even need to respec. I'm not kidding, my tree looked like this. The only thing I did is that I kept on going, getting the travel notes, strength notes, with some small exceptions, like for example this node, which is very very good node. But I just kept on getting small nodes, and not even investing into jewels because I didn't have Adorn at this point, right? Just keep investing into, you get this cluster over here with attributes and stuff, and just keep on investing into attributes, strength all the time, and that's literally the leveling. And you might ask, why the hell does it work? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? That looks like something that you would see in like a bait video or something like that. Well, it makes sense because Pillar of the Cage God is the most broken item in the game. Some people say that it's Hand of Wisdom in action, or or something like some people say Ghost Ride. Guys, they don't even come close to how broken Pillar is. And this item is going to change completely next patch. I know that. There's no way they're gonna ship this item like this next patch. So just forget about it. Just use it until you can, boys, because this item is going to look completely different yeah, next patch. But why does it work like that? And what you're supposed to do during leveling, you can still use Ice Strike, no problem. And before that, I believe I'm just gonna check real fast, so I don't even remember the names. You can use Glacial Cascade early on, and then once you get to Ice Strike, you can start using Ice Strike, or still use Glacial Cascade, no problem whatsoever, right? Tempest Bell against bosses, basic stuff. And after that, you don't really care about these skills anymore, except for Hand of Chayula, right? But what you do is literally you just pick these points and you use the fact that this item is broken. Like it gives you just too much damage, too much everything for free. What you do, the only thing that you care about on your equipment, on your gloves, you want to get some flat damage, like from like plus 1 to 20 lightning damage on gloves, something like that. The same thing on the rings, you want to get some flat damage like this during leveling, because this flat damage is going to boost your damage from like the problem of this weapon. I'll tell you what the problem of this weapon is. The increased weapon damage works on all damage types. That's the problem. In PoE1, this weapon is 100% balanced because this stat, not only these modifiers are smaller, they're like much weaker. I think it's like 1% attack speed per 10 dexterity and like 1% area per like 20 intelligence, something like this. And it's physical weapon damage per 10 strength in PoE1. Here it's all weapon damage, so it works with Hova, it works with flat damage on the rings, it works with everything. So all you gotta do during leveling is equip this, get the strength nodes, and get some flat damage on your rings, and that's it. You don't need to worry about anything. You don't need to go ES or anything like that. Just literally get normal equipment with life. Literally just with life. Resistances and flat damage, and you will literally one-shot everything during campaign, as I did. It's just too broken. I'm sorry. It's just too broken. And that's, long story short, is the leveling when it comes to this build. Not much else to say. If someone is going to struggle, I don't know. You just can't. You can't struggle. It's not possible. I'm sorry. All right. Skill gems. I'm going to try to like go through this a little bit faster than usual. My other build guides were like hour 50, hour 20 minutes. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster because in many cases this is similar to what my invoker had. So yeah, let's go. Ice Strike, main skill. When it comes to clearing, I use it when I'm clearing maps because of this launch that you do towards monsters. So you have a launch, like a long gap closer with Hand of Chayula, and then you have another launch with Ice Strike. It feels good, feels better in my opinion than Tempest Flurry, unless you just do like a full dexterity stacker and you like get 20 attacks per second. This build doesn't. It's a little bit different. So Martial Tempo, so you launch faster, and just basically damage, like consecrated effect. The less area on this skill does not matter, because once you kill something, the explosions from heralds go take over, right? That explosions go off, so you don't care about the area on this. So a little bit more damage on that. Weapon elemental damage, rage on melee hit, which is nice, and close combat for more damage. Basically Ice Strike. You use it, or you can use, if you want, you can still use Tempest Flurry while mapping. It's really up to you. I think that Ice Strike is better because you move a little bit faster with it. Then Tempest Flurry is the skill that I use against bosses. Now this is completely unnecessary, by the way, and you don't have to do that. You could literally just use Ice Strike if you wanted to, but I did both skills just for fun because I could. Just to have a little bit of variety. And also Tempest Flurry is a little bit better against bosses because it feels like it attacks faster, but also I can have Ice Strike set up with full damage, and also I can have Tempest Flurry set up with full utility. What I mean by that is Martial Tempo for attack speed once again, First of all, you might ask, how do I have attack speed twice? So we're playing Gemling and we use this. We can use 2 copies of the same support in different skills. So, you know, what supports you put whatever you want, it doesn't really matter because you can use 2. So that's actually pretty nice. Then you use overcharge for for shock magnitude. That makes you do more damage to from all sources once you apply shock to the enemy. Very nice. Then you have more freeze build up so that, you know, just apply freeze and the explosions go over more easily. But honestly, anything else I could put anything else here. This is honestly completely pointless. I could use the support gem that gives you 30% increased effect of your exposure. I think it will be better here. So I might change that in the written guide because I already wrote the guide. I'm just going to, you know, release the guide and the video at the same time. So I'm going to change it there. I'm just going to change real fast exposure just to make sure that. Oh, there we go. Strip away. I think strip away is going to be better here. So there we go. Made the build better while recording a video. I gotta be the best. Uh, lightning exposure after that, that's going to be additional 6%, so some extra damage. And rage and melee hit, I think the best. Basically, you just use that against boss, you drop the bell, you just keep on going, and that's it, right? Very simple. Tempest Bell, this is our main damage dealer. The way this build does single target damage is that you enable cast and shock, you drop ball lightning or whatever ability that attacks often, that hits often, you want to put in there. Keep in mind to keep the at the lowest level possible to make the mana cost as little as possible. The damage on this ability doesn't matter. What matters is that this ability will hit the bell multiple times, and the bell will go off, and the bell damage is very, very high. So that's how you do damage with this build. And the Tempest Bell, basically you want to put as much damage as possible here. More weapon elemental damage, basic stuff. Consume 10 rage, rage forge, consume 10 rage to deal 35% more damage. Very nice as well because you just keep on generating rage constantly. You have 3 on hit. So the bell is going to get massive boost, of damage with this. Elemental focus because we don't really care about applying alignments with this. We apply shock with Tempest Flurry. Close combat for more damage and conk effect for more damage. We don't care about AoE. It should reach the boss just fine if you drop the bell right on top of a boss. So just you see the pattern here. Just literally as much damage as possible to be able to enable Tempest Bell to be our damage dealer, so we can keep on proccing Ball Lightning or any other spell on it, and just, you know, keep on proccing it multiple times to drop bosses very, very quickly. As I mentioned before, as you saw here, the pinnacle boss is going to die in 10, slightly above 10 seconds. Any map boss or sizzle boss will literally die in almost instantly. So, Hand of Chayula with a voltaic mark, conductivity, Hynod Curse, and Maim. This last support over here is, you could put honestly whatever you want here. I put Maim because I like it. Maim is a nice debuff. Slower movement speed against bosses and reduced evasion rating. It's okay. And Voltaic Mark for shock effect. Very nice. Conductivity for reduction of lightning resistance, because the main damage source we do is lightning still. And Hynod Curse for increased effect. Very, very simple. You can make this skill like a 6-link. Put another support here, but you would honestly have to think about what to put in there, because I think that Hand of Chayula works perfectly fine with just 4 supports. That's how I used it on my monk as well. So, Herald of Ice, we get to the important stuff, right? Just to make your explosions go off, we need to do it smart, and we need to do it right. So Herald of Ice, I think that magnified effect on both Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder, absolutely a very good idea. If you play the different class than Gemling, magnified effect is probably better on Herald of Ice, because this is what the explosion is. The explosion that keeps on going comes from this, so magnified effect is probably better here. More chance to shock, because Herald of Ice cannot shock. Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice cannot freeze, Herald of Thunder cannot shock. And how we do the chain explosion is that we make Herald of Ice shock, and we make Herald of Thunder freeze. So like it's in reverse. And the Herald of Thunder will freeze enemies, which will cause the explosions from Herald of Ice, that the enemies will be frozen, and they will keep on shattering enemies, and these shattering enemies will keep on getting shocked because the explosion will cause them to shock, which will create, it's like it goes on and on and on, right? That's basically how it works. So more chance to shock, long shot for people that are off screen, because you will be off screening enemies all the time with this to deal more damage to them. Honestly, this is not mandatory because you will kill everything anyway. But Innervate. By the way, on both of them, this long shot is just something like for a slight quality of life to off screen everything. You could totally just keep those literally without these two supports, by the way. And you could just save yourself 2 perfect jewel orbs. It's totally fine. Innervate, this one is important on the other hand. These 2 buffs, I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time, I guess. These buffs, Innervate and Ice Bite, will be up all the time when you're clearing. They will go off of each other, and you will get 2 massive damage buffs. Very nice. For example, also this helps because sometimes when you have maps that have the modifier, which is kind of annoying, enemies have increased island threshold. Your first enemy might not be super easy for you to start explosions, right? But once you get this buff, they just keep on exploding all the time. So for 3 seconds, once it goes off, and you can also make it easier, much easier for the chain explosions to start going off by using Hand of Chayula on monster, and this will give them this debuff, which will make it easier for you to apply shock to them, and this is something you can do to make the explosions go off easier, to start the enemies explode easier. So that's a very nice thing to do. And Shock Siphon, honestly, this is not needed because look at this, but I put it in there because I had it on Monk, and in case something dropped your ES, I don't remember last time my ES dropped to like a low enough level that I would even consider this being useful. But if you find yourself in a situation when your ES is lower, let's just say you have Forest Gear, you have 30,000 ES only, pathetic 30,000, then Shock Siphon will recover your energy shield. It will. It is what it is. 4%. So per enemy, you're gonna get 12 pathetic 1200 ES. I would get over 2,000. So yeah. And now Herald of Thunder. This is basically, many of these supports are similar, but it's a little bit different here. For example, here we have chance to shock, we have more freeze buildup, right? Because as I mentioned, this is the skill that will freeze enemies. So what is important here is magnified effect, glaciation, long shot. This is not important. Ice Bite is important, and what is very important is cold infusion. This is mandatory actually, because in order to make Herald of Thunder freeze very efficiently, we need to add some cold damage to it. So cold infusion and glaciation absolutely mandatory. Ice Bite as well. These two not so much, but they're a nice quality of life. And that's about it. Cast of Shock I'm going to talk about in a second. Wind Dancer with a blind, it always helps, right? But Wind Dancer is mostly here for you to gain additional evasion. Given all the amount of ES that this build has, we still have actually a way to get some evasion. So it's still, I think that having that 63 or 65 or 70% evasion is so massive. It's so easy to get decent amount of evasion in this game, and it really makes like a insane amount of difference. So Wind Dancer pretty nice. Grim Feast absolutely absolutely mandatory. Honestly, like with this amount of ES, Grim Feast still feels nice because occasionally you're going to find yourself in a Citadel map with 6 dangerous mods, and one of these mods will be less recovery, and you will have 0 recovery, literally 0. You have 1 energy shield bar that you cannot recover in any way. Guess what? Grim Feast ignores that. Grim Feast doesn't care. You're just gonna pick up the souls and you will gain ES. So in rare situations, Grim Feast is useful. Once you get to this level of ES, it's not really needed, because you're never gonna die. But I still use it because it's just broken. I mean, I don't know. And then Blink, we're going to talk about it in a second when we get to itemization. I'm going to go back to it later, so keep that in mind, guys. And Cast on Shock against bosses, as I mentioned before. You want to disable your heralds because they don't do anything against bosses. Enable Cast on Shock and just hit the boss at the same time with the Tempest Bell, and this will shock the enemy. This ball lightning will go off, and the ball lightning will keep on hitting the bell at the very quick rate, and the boss will just explode, right? And we want to support this with Impetus for increased energy gain, energy retention for basically the same thing, and less cost because, you know, it will cost some mana, so why not? There is no reason why you shouldn't use that. Something like less cost you could also use in some of the other skills if you feel like the mana cost is too high. For example, Tempest Flurry, instead of like literally anything, like Strip Away, for example. You can use less cost and you will never struggle with mana cost again. The beautiful thing about Gemling is the fact that you can use the same support twice, right? So, alright, give me a second. I'm just gonna take a sip. Alright, next up we have passive tree. So passive tree, for the most part, you probably saw it already, but I'm going to show you again. We start from here. I tried, just to talk about it for a second beforehand, I tried many different interactions, many versions. I found this one to be the best, to be able to squeeze every little piece of ES as much as you possibly could. And the best part about this tree right there is that the future levels, you still have options to invest into raw ES straight up. So let's just say I was level 97, I could invest into this energy shield node and this energy shield node for additional 30%. Let's just say that I was level 100. You could invest into... There was something still that you could possibly, you know, to begin with, investing into more ES at this point is like kind of, you know, there's for example, dexterity nodes that you could put in there. There's attack speed with dexterity and this, which you could invest into that if you wanted to push further. There is these nodes, which are actually pretty decent, but yeah, I just got carried away, sorry for that. We'll start here, boom, branch into these two places for 2 jewel sockets, branch to the sides, go down polymathy and jack of all trades, very important, we take those. Then we select all of these. We're going to get to the jewels later, but we select these in order to... I'm going to talk about it, right? I'm not going to repeat myself, and not to make this video like 1 hour again. Jewel socket, we just go in a straight line right off the bat. Then we go over here again to branch into 2 jewel sockets to the sides. We're going over here, Chaos inoculation, absolutely mandatory in my opinion. Going over here, then we just branch again once again to get these 2 jewel sockets and this cluster, because it's a very, 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 very good cluster. Evasion, reduced effect of curses, and energy shield at the same time. There is literally no reason why you shouldn't take this. Then going over here, getting patient barrier and ingenuity. Very good, 4 points here, very, very good. We're going here. One thing I don't use, which you totally could if you wanted to. You could use Whispers of Doom and apply additional curse, whether it's Enfeeble or Temp Chains, and literally just put it over here instead of in Hand of Cheola instead of Maim. You could totally do that, right? I personally haven't found, realistically speaking, like a reason why you should do that, because like what boss is ever going to, like, guys, like bosses are not balanced in this game right now around fighting 52,000 ES abominations. They're balanced around fighting 4,000-5,000 life poor warriors, right? That have nothing to do better with their lives than to just play warrior, right? So bosses are not capable of killing you, which, you know, tomorrow I'm going to upload another video doing endgame content, including Simulacrum, which is the hardest content in the game. and you're going to see for yourself that, you know, this is an overkill anyway. So why would you want to invest into that at one point? I don't know, but you can if you want to. Then we're going straight up here, energy shield nodes and energy shield node +1 maximum elemental resistances. If you didn't have enough tankiness for some reason, then you know you have 76 now instead of 75. Going over here, jewel socket, boom, and getting to the sides once again and getting these very good energy shield nodes. Additional mana regen, it's not bad, and then getting these energy shield nodes as well. This node, you might be surprised. Oh, card! Like, this is a big notable here. 70% energy shield from your equipped helmet, guys. This literally gives me 350 energy shield. Okay, I'm going to show you. Some people will not believe me. Look, this 15% energy shield node, 800 DS. This one, 400 DS. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's just we have such high percent. And we get so much energy shield from our chest, which we're going to get to when we get to items. We get so much ES from this that this 70% from helmet literally doesn't matter. It's better to have 15%. It's much better to have 15% like global maximum energy shield. That's it. And next up, that's the passive tree more or less. If you're a madman, you can try to optimize that even better, but I don't think you can, honestly. Of course, depending on what your goal is, because some people's goals will be to make a 40,000 energy shield character, but instead having 90% evasion, which is it will be tankier, to be honest. It honestly would be tankier, but the point of this character was to get as much energy shield as possible. So that's what I did. But you could do that. You could totally do something like this, and it's going to be tankier, and you know you should optimize the build to your needs, to however you feel like it, because once again it's just a guide. It's not like, oh, you just gotta play this way. Don't let the streamers tell you how to play your game, guys. Okay, use your guide as a sign on how to do it, and to understand how the character works, and then tune it to your own needs. Alright, jewel sockets, which is very important. First of all, I'm going to talk about unique jewels, and then we're going to talk briefly about magic jewels. So first of all, we have Against the Darkness. Against the Darkness is a jewel that is extremely important. 4% strength per notable is what you should get, and 4% of damage as extra, whatever you want, really, it doesn't matter. That's what you need to get. If you get 5% strength, it's even better, of course. I bought it a long time ago for actually very cheap for how good it is. I bought it for like 20 divines, I think, something like that. But 4% is it's not really going to make a difference, let's be honest. So, Against the Darkness, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, and from Megalomaniac 5, I get 5, so 25% increased strength and 4% and 20% damage as extra fire damage. It's absolutely insane, right? This gives me 250 strength, this jewel, 6,000 yes. So, and on top of that, very substantial amount of damage. So, absolutely insane. Very important. Then we get next Megalomaniac. The rule when it comes to Megalomaniac is the same as always. You want to get Megalomaniac with 2, or if you're rich enough or lucky enough, 3 good notables. I have 2 very good ones. I got lucky. I bought this jewel like I don't know how long ago for 1 divine. But this jewel gives me one of the with a river, which is insane, and also gives me this, which by itself is completely useless, and that's I believe what the seller was thinking. But I got lucky since this jewel like reaches this spot. That is additional 5% increased strength and 4% damage as extra fire. Winner me dinner, I guess. I don't know what to say. Of course, you could apply this strategy if you'll be looking for one to these notables as well. Yeah, they're useless by itself for the most part, but if you're going to find a Megalomaniac with one of these, then that's literally a big bonus for you, and the seller will not know that, because how is he supposed to know about that, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you scam someone or something like that. No, it's just like lucky coincidence, right, for this build. So it is what it is. Then I believe this is the last unique jewel. Yes, it is. Adorned, the rule is very simple here. If you don't have Adorned, guys, don't despair because the build is going to function 100% fine without it. As you can see, if I drop it completely, and if I would put a jewel in there, like a normal jewel, that will be still sitting at pathetic 38,000 ES. Yeah, this is something that you want to buy when you want to push the ES to the stupid levels. My recommendation is that if the Adorned is below 60%, do not bother. And honestly, I don't think I would buy like below 70%. 70% would already start feeling fine. The reason why, if you're not even close to buying Adorned, at like around 65-70%, if it's out of your budget, is because the jewels that you'll have to buy are not necessarily super cheap either. Each one of those is going to cost you 1, 2, 3, 4 divines, depending on how many are on the market at the time. So this is something you need to keep in mind. Of course, if you don't have Adorned by default, that means that you can use rare jewels instead, and automatically they become stronger in a way because they're rares. So they have 4 mods now, right? But that's when it comes to Adorned. Don't buy like a 50% because it's just not going to be worth it in my opinion. At this point, I would just fit in the equipment with rare jewels, or you know what I would do? What I would do if I had no Adorned? I would probably drop completely some of these jewels. Some of them I would buy sure rares with increased maximum energy shield and strength corruptions. But some of them, like this big cluster over here, that's 9 passive points, I would just drop that and I would start going here, boom, and get these in massive cluster of very good energy shield nodes and this massive cluster of good energy shield nodes, and I would call it a day. That's literally what I would do. There is another for example, you could also change some of these jewels to get over here, for example, and get this cluster of energy shield. There are some other clusters of energy shield nodes. There's some other decent clusters, for example, penetration if you want to invest into some damage. The entire build is literally travel nodes and and jewel sockets. So in a situation where you want to drop some of these jewel sockets to invest into something else, you literally have the entire passive tree because we're traveling through half of the passive tree. You can pick and choose whatever you want. Look at this. You can get these nodes for attack speed, and that's going to give you a decent amount of damage. You can invest into this attack speed. That's 14% attack speed and reduced skill cost, which is very nice. 3 nodes. There's so many options. If you struggle with chain exploding people, monsters, then you can, for example, invest into this, right? Which will give you freeze buildup. That's also a decent thing. Like for 3 points, 40% freeze buildup. That's going to help you dramatically. Help you doing the explosions from the heralds. You can, for example, invest into these points, very nice. On top of that, with evasion, you can invest into these points, totally fine. This is not good, but like getting some of that evasion, right? Oh, this node is fantastic. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to get 45, 75% evasion and 8% increased dexterity. That's going to be a massive amount of evasion for you. So many options. You can see that you can check for yourself, and there's going to be so many options. But the truth is, the reality is, if you have 90+% Adorned, or even 100 if you're super rich, this is going to be the best. You just invest into 20 and 10. My jewels are not perfect. You invest into 20, 10, 20% ES, 10 flat strength jewels, and that's how you get to, in the future, if your items are going to be insane, you can get to 60,000+ ES on level 100. Right, 65 maybe. So that's passive tree and jewels for the most part. I'm trying to think if I missed anything, but I think that's about it. Yeah, no Adorned, drop some of these jewels and invest into the tree, right? And it's going to work just fine. Number is going to go down a little bit, but not that much. Truly not that much. And again, no Adorned, the remaining of your jewels get rare jewels with energy shield, other useful stats like stun threshold. Something I didn't mention. Good, I reminded myself. Something I didn't mention is that it's important to have at least on one of these jewels. It's not like the end of the world if you're not going to have it, because you can just invest here 2 points, so it's fine. But it's important to at least have one of these jewels stat like this. Gain maximum energy shield as additional stun threshold. You're gonna have one of these or two on two different jewels, and you're basically stun immune. So like you can calculate very quickly, like 10% or 15% additional stun threshold when you have 50,000 ES. You know how much stun threshold that is, right? So you're basically going to be borderline stun immune from one or two jewels. If you can't find any of these, just invest into like get this point, get these 2 points, and you're stun immune. That's like, it's crazy that ES builds can get stun immunity when warriors like live builds, not necessarily warriors, just live builds will struggle with stuns, and we get keystones like this one, which is I don't know what this thing is doing in this game, but whatever. All right, because I'm getting carried away. Sorry. Last thing to talk about: items and budget items. So let's get into it. Excuse me. Pillar of the Cage God with 30 spirit and 12% weapon damage corruption. There is no budget here. Well, the budget I guess would be non-corrupted one for 1 exalt. With 10% increased weapon damage per 5 strength, but this corruption is so cheap. It will cost you probably like a divine to buy this, and this is literally 20% more damage. Like if my bell is 60,000, let's just say that my bell would be 60,000, right? So without this, it would be 50,000. It's 20% more damage, literally. Because all of our damage just get multiplied by strength. We don't have any percent damage outside of strength, so that's just 20% more damage, right? And 30 spirit, you need to invest into Ascapas and get that 30 spirit. Unfortunate, but in order to keep everything, this is only spirit source in this build, but in order to like keep everything like together, you need that. So it is what it is. Excuse me. Ghostwrite. This is the reason why we reach such absurd amounts of ES. I'm going to show you real fast. This, some people will call it a bug. I'm 99% sure that if this was a bug, then it's hard to say, right? Because GEG had many opportunities to just like change this interaction, and they didn't before. Like for example, they changed other interactions with Adorned and Timeless Jewels. They didn't change that. Something tells me that maybe this is how they intended it. Maybe it's a bug. Maybe it's going to get nerfed. I don't know. But long story short is that this works with CI also. So if you allocate CI, this remembers that you have 7,200 life, right? It remembers it. And what it does is that 61% with the corruption, 61% of that life gets converted to energy shield. Keep in mind that what matters is only your flat life. You can't cheese that with, oh, I'm going to get 20% life from, I don't know, from jewels. Like 80% life from Grand Spectrums. And I'm going to get more life. That doesn't work. The only thing that matters is flat life. So for example, this flat life, 103 maximum life. Strength, this is flat life. More life and other like increased percent increased life is not going to work. That's just how conversions work. So this converts 61% of your flat life to energy shield, and then this energy shield gets further like boosted further by your increased energy shield modifiers on the tree, jewels, and stuff like that. So as it's not too hard to calculate that this gave me 45,000 energy shield. I had like what? It converted about like what 5k life, something like that, a little bit less than that. So I have about 800% increased energy shield from all the modifiers on the tree and the jewels. more or less 850, something like that. And that's why it's broken, and that's why it works so well with Gemling Legionnaire, because I'm gonna talk about the Ascendancy real fast, because Gemling Legionnaire gets this, which makes gives you double bonus for your strength, intelligence, and dexterity. So stacking strength goes like bread and butter with this, because you just get insane amount of flat life, and all that flat life gets converted to energy shield. Use it until you can, boys, because there's going to be many changes in patch 0.2, something tells me. And then we get this, and for 3 additional skill slots, not really mandatory, but it is what it is. And gem studded, I think that very nice. If you could totally, I'm going to mention that, to people that will want to do some changes to this build, and make it a little bit different in the future, or super min-max, you can drop that, make it so that you don't really have like double supports. It's totally possible. I didn't have double supports on my monk, for example, and it worked just fine. And invest into thaumaturgical infusion, and giga increase your maximum resistances. With this, you're probably going to have above 80% of all resistance, and that's going to be massive. A massive boost to your tankiness if you're looking for more for some reason. You can do that, and you can make it the tankiest character of all time in PoE2, in massive history of 2 months of PoE2, because with this, and if you stacked some more evasion while dropping energy shield, you would have like a character literally that would have like 85 all res with 40,000 ES still, with like 90% evasion, and that would be literally unkillable, right? You would just stand AFK in Simulacrum, highest difficulty Simulacrum, and they would just not be able to do anything to you. But yeah, let's continue, because I got off track again. Next up, Hova. Very simple. You don't need corruption. It doesn't even add that much damage anyway, because we're not getting a lot of intelligence. But the regular Hova, 100% the best in slot. Period. This extra lightning damage, as I mentioned before, will get boosted by Pillar of the Cage God. So, stonks, I guess. Stonks, boys. Ingenuity, the closer to, the higher the better. It's that simple. At this point of the league, I bet that many of you have Ingenuity, probably a very high percent. So that's it. If you're going to have 78%, if it's going to be 10% worse than mine, it literally doesn't matter. It just doesn't. So, boots. This is the only place where you could do some different stuff, because you have 2 options. You could use full ES boots, like 300 plus ES boots with movement speed resistances, or you can use like T1 life, T1 strength boots with movement speed and resistances, and the ES is going to be literally similar, maybe a little bit lower. That's right. Like a 300 plus ES boots will have the same amount of ES as just maximum life strength boots with 90 energy shield, because they have life and strength. I know this build makes so much sense, right? But it is what it is. That's how much energy shield you get from life. Like that's how it works. So yeah, this will be a very cheap slot, by the way. You can get something similar for 1 divine. These boots I bought for almost nothing, because I corrupted them. I wanted to get something better, so I slammed the Vol Orb, and I got 2nd rune slot. So I'm like, I'm just gonna keep it, right? Astromantis is best in slot. If you don't have it, which is totally reasonable thing to say, you can use something like this, and this amulet in some cases would be even better. 55,000 ES, by the way. In some cases would be even better, because of course you're going to lose damage, and as you can see, I'm losing like, I don't know, 50% damage, around that much with this amulet. But if you're going to get an amulet like this with 50 spirit, which is possible, not that hard to get, because they come with implicit spirit boosts as well. So if you're gonna get 50 spirit on the amulet, you could use blink at the same time, and that is massive. So you would lose massive amount of damage, but you would gain actually even more energy shield, and you would get blink. But you would need to have 50. That 50 over here and that 30 would give you 180 total, and that would be enough to use blink, and that would be massive. So something to keep in mind, boys. Other than that, the best stats in here are all attributes, strength, absolutely super mandatory. Percent increased maximum energy shield as close to 50% as possible. And then after that, instead of this maximum energy shield, the best stat would be life. Like the highest life possible. For obvious reasons, right? But maximum energy shield will be fine too. And then if you don't want to have one with spirit, then this slot, the best stat would be maximum life or maximum energy shield. And this increased critical distractions is completely useless. You could have different stuff here. Plus to dexterity, plus to intelligence. If you get super lucky, you could also get plus to melee skills, something like that. I don't remember if this is a prefix or a suffix, but you could have that too. That'll be pretty good for Bell, right? So that'll be more damage. So that's when it comes to amulet slot. Keep in mind, Astrament is of course very expensive. Something like that would cost you 5 divines. So this is absolutely not something that you need. Absolutely. I used this one for a long time and honestly didn't feel that much different. It's just Astrament is for swag, I guess. Helmet slot is very... Oh, excuse me. One more thing. It's absolutely absolutely mandatory. In my opinion, it's important to allocate Subterfuge Mask. This, instead of Spaghettification, that's right. Instead of that 70% all attributes, I think that this is better for one simple reason. From just this anointment and helmet slot, you get this amount of evasion. And that makes difference. That truly does. I think that with such small investment, like literally doubling, more than doubling your ES, because now enemies will be missing you like, 60% of the time or something like that. Even more with blind, because we can blind people. Having this is very, very good option, and this will make you always do Simulacrum easily. This build has such an insane amount of ES that I did Simulacrum with 0 evasion before I got that, and it still was fine. But I had waves when they dropped me to like 20,000 ES or something. With this, your ES would never move like by a lot, because they will just be missing often. And this is, in my opinion, way better if you're looking to have smooth experience in all the content in the game. Because sometimes, there will be maps, there will be insane maps with 6 damage mods with Delirium at the same time, that without evasion, even this build would start dropping slowly. You will always be able to just, click exit to character selection, because they will not kill you instantly. It's not possible. But, very rarely, if you have no evasion, there will be annoying situations when you can start dropping, and, getting to like 10,000 ES or something like that. With evasion, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. With evasion, you can do everything easily. So Subterfuge Mask, and the reason why it works so well is because we use high energy shield helmet. And this helmet, excuse me, I started losing my voice for some reason. And this helmet is so important because this is pretty much the bulk, pretty much all of our evasion. Like just this, 2 evasion per 1 maximum energy shield on equipped helmet, and very high energy shield on your helmet means that you get 1,000 flat evasion. It's absolutely insane. And I saw some monk builds that were using, instead of pure energy shield, they were using like hybrid. I don't understand why, because pure energy shield helmet is just so much better. It gives you so much more stats in total, just because of this one node. This node is insane. This node is absolutely insane. This makes your helmet almost like a body armor. This node makes your helmet like a body armor. That's how many stats you get. So without this, I dropped to basically no evasion at all, right? And yeah, that's it. As much evasion, as much energy shield as possible. With resistances, intelligence is not needed, but you could even get a higher energy shield like this. than this. I saw helmets with 550 energy shield, but that's very high budget. And we're left with rings. Rings are extremely important because, as for any stat stacker, because we use ingenuity, so ingenuity makes them even better. Obviously, we get almost 4 ring slots basically. So we need strength. I'm going to talk about that in matter of importance, because I had many people come to my Discord say, "Oh, Karn, like I copied your build, but I have like my strength is 600 lower than yours." And then I asked them like, "What is your equipment?" And they show me their equipment, and the rings are literally like complete trash, like not even remotely what they need to be. Right? This is really important. We need to understand the importance of stats. So number one, the most important stat, strength. Number two, close to it, very close to it, attributes. These two need to be on your rings, period. Number three, if these two stats are not on your rings, then don't buy a ring. Just don't do it. Number three, lightning resistance, something like lightning resistance, fire resistance, cold resistance, very good, because this will really give you insane amount of resistance from ingenuity. And yes, getting intelligence or something like that will be technically better, because that will be a huge boost. But you're not going to cap your resistance if you don't have one resistance slot in your rings on this build, because we have too many uniques. So in my opinion, strength, attributes, one high resistance is what you need on the ring. And after that, you're golden. It doesn't matter that much after that. So after that, the most important stats, flat life, because that will give you more energy shield. And then the best stats after that possibly would be something like this basically, but higher. So lightning damage, cold damage, fire damage, physical damage, doesn't matter what type. Just flat damage. This ring is technically perfect if just the stats were higher. So if I had like higher cold, higher lightning damage, like 119 life, stuff like that, right? You know what I mean. This ring, these two prefixes are kind of useless. Maximum mana is useless, and evasion is okay, but it's low. So this ring could see massive improvement, but it has 10% rarity corruption at least. But yeah, you get the idea, right? Rings are very important. That's also important for other pieces of equipment, guys. Many people come to my Discord or stream, like ask, like I copied your build, but like my stats are 5 times lower, because you don't understand what is important, right? Which is just why my build guides are so long sometimes, and I say that many times, what is important to buy, because if you're going to buy stats, if you're going to buy items that are with stats that are not important for the build, then you're not going to see the results, right? Your items are very important in RPGs. It's not Diablo 4 when you slap freaking some rags on yourself and you beat Torment 4 in like 20 minutes, right? It's not Diablo 4, it's Path of Exile. Alright, and that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Any comments? Feel free to ask anything, or also join my Discord if you want. I'm going to read every single one, try to ask as many people as possible. A few more things. Next video is going to be tomorrow. As I mentioned, I took a break, so now it's time to start spamming content. Spamming content. I don't make a video when I don't have a reason to make a video. If the video is going to be bad, then I just don't make it. But tomorrow we're going to make a video about, I'll just show you guys all the endgame content and how this build fares. And that is going to be possibly the last or one of the very last videos from PoE2 this league until patch 0.2, because next we have League in PoE1, which I'm extremely excited for. I haven't played PoE actually for quite some time, so I'm kind of rusty. But I already prepared some builds. I'm extremely excited to play these builds, and I'm going to start making PoE1 content. This is going to be heaven for a PoE1 content creator, because now we have an event in PoE1, then probably after this event it's going to be PoE2 patch 0.2 with new classes and new content and stuff like that. So what is there to complain about, right? So after tomorrow's video, which is still going to be this character, you can expect PoE1 content, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy that as well. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and See you in the next video.